How about that? Hi, White Rabbit, the Rabid Rabbi. You weren't expecting all that, were you? Mm. Boy, can't believe it. Can't believe it. I even been given an extra year. '60 is the cutoff date, right? And I'm 60 this year, and I'll be 60 again, depending on who I am. I found Jesus again, more of Jesus and more of Jesus' teaching. Um, yeah. When he said he was the Word, uh, he knew this book like I do. That's all I'll tell you. Yes. And we found him again. Inadvertently. I kind of wasn't trying. I was reading something else, and that's what happens with me and this book now. Um, I start reading it, and I feel like I'm enduring fingernails on a chalkboard or something. And I don't know. I never really understood that whole thing where people would hear a sound and it would just get to them like that. And then it finally happened to me. I finally was able to do it. And what it was a fork scraping a can of dog food to get the dog food out for my dog. And I went around the top of the thing and around that lid. And I don't know what it was, but like there is something inside of us that will, even a sound, a certain sound will just grab your skin. So that's what it was, like fingernails on a chalkboard. First time I ever felt that. But this is what it's like. Now, I open up to random spots all over Scripture. And what do I find? More Jesus everywhere. Jesus' teachings and everything are so in this book, everywhere, everywhere, when you know how to look. And I'm not saying that, see, we got to be careful here, right? This is a very special place. On this channel, Jesus did not need to die. Okay. Did he need to die though? Yes, and kinda, because he did, right? So what do we do with that sacrifice of life? What was the importance of it? What was the significance of it, right? We say that we don't understand any of his teachings, especially about what a son of man is, because you are a son of man. I am a son of man. We have to have faith in order to please God. And in fact, do you know who was the first person to preach the gospel, and to whom was it preached? And it's a very crazy question, because it was actually Abraham, and God preached the scriptures to Abraham. Seriously, it's in there. Paul says so anyway. But like I said, Jesus is so in this thing. So I'm gonna go through Job 26, and then for a grand finale, we're gonna finish up. We're gonna take a look at what is it? Galatians 3:10, where it talks about, the law being a curse and so on. So, or those who live by the law. It's not what we think. So Job 26, and this is in the ESV. I shy away from reading the subtitles or the headings over the areas, because the certain books, because sometimes they're right, But most times what I find is they limit your thinking. You think that that's all that that section is about. So let's see what it says. It says, Job replies, God's majesty is unsearchable. That's what they're saying, right? I say that's a bunch of that's not true. Um, if there is a way to say that His majesty is unsearchable, it's because His majesty is so present and among us. To say that you have to search for it is like you don't know. I don't know. Are you alive? His majesty is all around us, working through every single thing, good, bad, ugly. I guess even when somebody's asleep, we even see parts in scripture where people are put into a deep sleep and then weird things happen, right? So, but it says God's majesty is unsearchable. That's what they're saying. And let's go. So Job answered and said, and now he's speaking to, he's got his miserable comforters over there. And they're what? They're telling him all the things he's done wrong, how he's talking to God the wrong way, how he Job is, a wretch to these guys. Because they feel that, whatever you deserve, you're going to get. And in some cases, we bring our own troubles upon ourselves. Man is born to trouble, as sure as sparks fly upward. That doesn't mean that we're going to get in trouble. It means that trouble is what causes us to have a birth, to understand. We're born to trouble. In other words, when trouble comes, that's when we learn from it. Jacob being saved from Jacob's trouble doesn't mean being, excluded from it. It means that you're going to learn because you're going to be like Jacob, which means usurper or deceiver. But here he goes and he's talking to his friends. He says, how you have helped him who has no power. Who's he talking about? Satan. How you have helped him who has no power. The only power that Satan has is what's given to him. And if you, remember, the Lord works remotely and locally. Remotely is his word. This book would be remotely. Locally, breath of life inside of you. That's why Nineveh was able to, they kind of took a different path, right? They either did things, their own way or against the Lord. And from remote, he's saying, look, here's what's coming. But then what happened? Locally, they repented. Did the Lord still do the work? Sure. Where does your breath of life come from? So when you can see that all of life, the Lord is working through all of everything in that way, I don't know. We're bond servants or something, however you want to look at it. So he says, how you have helped him who has no power. In other words, everything that your spirit does will produce either light or dark, good or evil. It's built into you. It's Isaiah 45:7. I form light, I create darkness. I make peace, I create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. I, the Lord, have placed my spirit inside of man. Therefore, man can do all these things also. It's where free will comes from. And he says, how you have helped him who has no power. Because Satan has no power unless, God gives it to him. All he has is in your hands. All he has is in your hands. What do you have? I kind of don't have nothing. Everything that I have is dedicated to the Lord. Everything. It's not getting very good use at this moment, but it is dedicated. And so I sit waiting. How you have helped him who has no power. Who gives the devil and Satan life? Everything is sourced through a spirit. So the spirit that's ruling you is either good or evil. You can't serve both. So how you have helped him who has no power. How you have saved the arm that has no strength. Right there in Job 26:3, an allusion to one of Jesus' teachings about the withered arm or the withered hand. See, the Lord is working through two different hands, right and left. They have different roles, even different purposes. If you can't understand what evil is for, the purpose of it, okay, it's kind of embarrassing, I guess, when, to be ashamed of the gospel. What is there to be ashamed of what Jesus did? Crickets. So why would Paul be ashamed of the gospel? Or maybe not ashamed. And it's because in this place, we're all under the Lord's power, so to speak. His spirit is within us. If he needed to stop you from doing something, that's what death is for. The fact that you live on and continue should be indication that you must be of some use to our God. Because if you weren't, he wouldn't leave you around sucking up air so that people could look at you and say, he's just here just because. It's not the way it works. Isaiah knew it. I know it. Jesus definitely knew it. And you had better learn it. So right there, how you have saved the arm that has no strength. Who's the left arm? Who's the left hand? The bad guy. And right here, Job is saying, why does this bad guy live? Because you've given him a body to live in. You've given him a temple to exist in. You've done something that's amazing. It's like victory over common sense, where there is no sense at all. Yeah. Let's listen to the music. I see beaches cluttered with military gear and people surfing. So the withered hand. What's misunderstood about the Lord, sorry for yelling. What's misunderstood about the Lord is that he's working through every single force, movement, wind that blows, everything in this place. And so evil has to be looked at in a special way, because either he is complacent and doesn't care, which is not the case, or there's a purpose for it. And sadly, that purpose is to fulfill a promise. We are promised blessings for good, and we're promised blessings for evil. And you're like, no, that's curses for evil. No, everything is a blessing, because everything, all things are of the Lord. I form light, I create darkness. I make peace, I create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. where is not our God? He's might as well be coating you, swimming in you, like so much of him in between here and 5 feet in front of you, you can't even see through it. But somehow we've deluded ourselves to think that, I don't know, God is somewhere else. Okay? He's inside of you. He's inside of you as a spirit, and what you do with that life force is going to come out of you. How you have helped him who has no power. In other words, you're helping the bad guy. All right? How you have saved the arm that has no strength. You've empowered the bad guy because you're doing the works of him. Whatever works you do show who your father is. The son always does what he sees his father doing. When I see you and the works that you do, I've seen your father. You've seen my father. Is it a big deal? No, it's just simple, fruit falling from a specific tree, if you will. How you have saved the arm that has no strength. In other words, you've brought evil. How you have counseled him who has no wisdom and plentifully declared sound knowledge. He's not mocking when he says this. See, we read this. If you read this and you think that Job is mocking and talking bullshit, then you don't understand this book. Nobody is mocking anybody. Jesus says, why do you have a log in your eye? He's referring to a record of offenses, not a stick. Okay, a log. In other words, what you store in here is going to create a fire that you're going to burn out what's over there, and you're going to see what gold is in it. It's called discernment, judgment, which we received as soon as the man died. Man was appointed once to die, and then the judgment. The man who died was Adam. And we, then knowing good and evil, were able to judge. Where we messed up is where we don't realize that evil is for us. Sin is for you, not against you. It's for you. But you must master over it. So then how can sin actually be for you? Well, sorry to go Darth Vader on you, but there's an interesting power to the dark side. Darkness has nowhere to go except to be light. Where does it flee to? Has nowhere to go. Where can darkness flee? It can't. It has nowhere to run to. And neither do you. The power of darkness. It has no rules. It's a stem cell. You can use it for evil, which then makes more evil, but ultimately will destroy itself. Or lacking any rules, and then moving in the spirit, you transcend things like words on paper, and you live in the spirit. I worn this analogy out, but if there are fire trucks speeding through my town, they're trying to get to where they need to go. There's people, have made this call somewhere. Somebody's figured it out. Here they come, they're not on the way to a fire because they don't know about the fire, right? They obviously are aware. That awareness Their spirit causes them to even transcend rules of safety and even common sense, where we're speeding through towns where there could be children playing, or running into buildings that are fully engulfed in fire. And why? Because I am my brother's keeper. Are you? These brothers are so different, and yet they have to be put in one box. You know, it's funny if you read, if you watch the old Star Trek episodes, you're going to see Judaism 101 in all of those episodes, how they teach. You know, the enemy within is the one where Kirk, which happens to mean church, going where no man has gone before, the only one who has seen heaven is the one who came. Yeah, we've been watching engulfed in biblical teachings for at least my entire life. AC/DC, you shook me all night long. Oh, the shaking at night. She was a fast machine. She kept her motor clean. Do you know what the woman represents in Scripture? It's Lady Wisdom. Could be the Torah, but ultimately Ruah, your spirit. And I think that that's actually what happened to Adam. Was there's like a step there. Eve represented his spirit, but taken outside of him. You know, the part of him that can bear fruit, to have sons or daughters, to literally bear spiritual fruit of good and evil inside of him. And for that law, that spirit, to come out of a man, there's only one way for that spirit to come out of a man: death. Death. We read this. We read these scriptures, and I'm supposed to be checking on other stuff right now. When you hear my alarms going off, there's probably plants somewhere that are going, okay, you decided to go all scientific and use an inert growing medium to keep down on the bugs, and are now giving us a solution. way low viscosity emulsified solution of boron and copper and magnesium and thallium and tertullium and all of it in there, nitrogen and calcium and different kinds of phosphates and other salts. I mean, just wow, chemistry experiment. And you know what? They hear nothing because there's nobody to feed them. Because I'm trying to feed you. How you have counseled him who has no wisdom. It's saying like you've tricked the person. Okay? And plentifully declared sound knowledge. Now, what is knowledge? So everybody thinks knowledge is up here. That's place of the skull. Okay? Knowledge is what comes out of you. Knowledge is the is that is produced from the spirit. It's what becomes. It's reality that manifests. The term knowing gets confused and confined in this box right here. Okay? This rock. It gets stuck in there. But what true knowledge is when it becomes. That's the result of works. That's what knowledge is. So when it's written, they perish for lack of knowledge, it's not saying they're not perishing because they're stupid, unless stupid is as stupid does, like Forrest Gump says, and they're just not doing what it is they should do, right? There's always knowledge happening. There's always fruit being produced. Just it's a continuous flow. There's good fruit, bad fruit. It's just everywhere. You know, walking down the street, you see a lady, she needs help mowing her lawn. You stop to mow the lawn because you thought it was the right thing to do. You think you're making good fruit. But guess what happened? There was actually somebody else that could have been helping her, you know, her son sitting on the porch, right? And maybe you were supposed to walk on and go do something else. Maybe that was the better choice. Not so obvious, but the better choice to facilitate the coming of a kingdom that we wait on. What really was the better choice? And that's what I'm trying to tell you is it doesn't matter how and what you choose. He'll use it. He will use whatever it is that you do for you or against you. When in the parable of the talents, where it says, I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you have not sown. What is that? That's referring to the Lord saying, well, I didn't sow evil, but I'm going to reap it. I'm going to use that for my good. And so then when isn't there anything that's not good? It's all good. All of it. It's good, which is a lower form of good, or very good. What is very good? Perfected. Everything. Verily, verily. Truly, truly. When Jesus was speaking as the Lord, 2 times always, he has to say your name twice because you have 2 sides to your spirit. You have a light side, you have a dark side. And that's why Jesus even says that. Not all who say, Lord, Lord. Remember, he calls your name twice because you have his spirit inside of you. I form light, I create darkness. Those two kind of don't go together. But they still they have to go together because they have to be in one spot, but they have to be at peace with each other. And the only way to come to that is to realize what evil is for. I feel like I'm sitting here trying to present you with an apple right now, going, here, let me show you what in the hell's going on here. So that you can know good and evil. Because right now, you really don't know what evil is. You see its effect. You see what it does. You don't know where it's coming from, and you don't know where it's going to. How do you feel about that? Ambiguity. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know where it's going to. That's people born of the Spirit. And he is working in every single thing that's going on in this place. how you have counseled him who has no wisdom. In other words, tricked the person that doesn't know and plentifully declared sound knowledge. In other words, just to say, whatever counsel you receive is going to produce something. It's going to produce, it's going to produce some kind of knowledge. Uh, when Jesus said, I didn't know you, what is he saying? He's saying, those aren't my kids. The fruit that you bear, I didn't cause that. You're claiming it in my name, but I'm saying that you don't know what spirit you are of, right? I came to save, not to destroy and to judge and so on. In fact, I can't judge. This word is the judge. It judges everything and all things that we do. And how do you fight against it? You can burn all the books. It doesn't matter. What is written has been spoken, and how it plays out and how it works is just how it is. It's not for all intents. I mean, honestly, I'm not. I don't. You could, were it possible, remove our God from ever existing, even anybody knowing that a name or any of it, his force would still dwell here because it dwells as like an instruction set for a program. We can't break the thing. Well, that's kind of not true. There is one way to break it. And the only way to break it is through evil. And you want to know what one of the most useful forces for evil is? Grace, mercy. Those are evil things because they're partiality. They don't match up with what they deserve. They're not eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and so on. So grace is not a good thing. It is a good thing that we have it because it's the only thing that saves us. Without grace, every judgment would be immediate and would either produce one of two things, either life or death. It would be it'd be like walking through a path. You step on a rock. Does the thing fall through the floor, or did I find a solid one to stand on? That's our world. It's I don't even know if this is the right way to put it, but it is a dichotomy, I think. Is that like a two-power struggle back and forth? It's what it is. And this is funny. We're not even into 4 yet. And now, guess who's going to show up? The Word. Tell you what, let me go look at a couple plants here real quick. Take a chili. Maybe take a bathroom break. Do I have a timer? I'm going to take 2 minutes off and go run around. Nah, can't do it. With whose help have you uttered words, and whose breath has come out from you? Can you hear everything that I've just been saying to you? Thrown back in your face. With whose help have you uttered words? A dead man doesn't speak, but a live man can speak death. But with whose help have you uttered words? Even though you have strengthened the withered hand, the bad hand. Where did that come from? Whose breath is that? I form light, I create darkness. I make peace. I create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. The dead tremble under the waters. And some sentences are kind of strange, right? The dead tremble under the waters and their inhabitants. It's like, how is that read? The dead tremble under the water and their inhabitants. It's like wheels within wheels. Sheol is naked before God. It's like to say there's no sin there. Nothing's covered. The dead tremble under the waters and their inhabitation and their inhabitants. So the dead are under their inhabitants. It's oppressed. He stretches out the north over the void. That's his law in heaven, just covering everything to make it what it could be, right? I'm sorry. Sheol is naked before God, and Abaddon has no covering. Okay, now that's the bad guy. And if he has no covering, that's saying he's somehow sinless, right? Book of Job has got a lot of things that connect all over the place. Like to Nicodemus, when Nicodemus says, can a man enter his mother's womb to be born a second time when he is old? And what does Job say? Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I return. So is he talking about something physical? Nakedness refers to being, in sin, right? So he's saying I was sinless, naked. And here it says Abaddon has no covering. What is sin then? Sin is best seen as self-inflicted neglect. You've already been told what to do. We already have the plan. We have the law. We have history. We have a lot of factual occurrences of how it works. Self-inflicted neglect. I need to look at some plants. Some are alive, some are dead. That's okay, is what he said. All right. Sheesh. Rooster. I bought a painting at a garage sale. Guy had a really nice place. And the stuff in his garage sale was not junk. But the picture is of, I don't know, he's a priest or something, but he's sitting with a bowl of soup and a loaf of bread and a Bible. And his glasses are folded and are actually resting on the Bible. And it's really strange because when I look at the glasses all folded up in the picture, they look just like these. Even the nose, the bridge. My eyes are getting better. My eyes have started to get better over the past few years. Couple, at least 2 or 3 years now. It's nice. The dead tremble under the waters and their inhabitants. Now, when it speaks of water, water is how the seed, obviously, a seed needs water. Paul refers to us as God's field people. We're just dirt, right? And within us are the things that he has planted. Well, how do you make that grow? Depends on what kind of water you put on it, right? When Jesus talked about living water, he was talking about the truth of God, to understand God, to live by his ways, right? The whole idea is that if I'm not even like of the Orthodox community, I shouldn't have to be the one to say this. Okay? This book, when if you could realize its power and the predicament that we're in because of it, it just says what this place is and how it works. The God that caused this to happen doesn't even have to exist anymore in order for this to still have precedence. It's exactly as Jesus said. The words cannot pass away. It's like, me looking at this and going, this is black and white. And then somebody decides we will destroy every possible knowledgeable thing that indicates that is black and white. And it still doesn't matter. You can wipe out everything. Will you have removed the idea or the reality? How do you transcend reality? And it sounds like it's something that you can't do, but actually you can do it. We've already done it, but we haven't done it in the right direction. Transcend reality. It just sounds beautiful, doesn't it? I have transcended reality. How in the hell can you get beyond what's real? Well, actually, you can. It's the, I'm sorry, I got to stop and think. I always get this backwards or mix it up, but it goes either way. But that is not, and yet shall come. In other words, it's the is that is not. Does that mean it's like saying something is waiting for you? It's just waiting there. The is that is not yet shall come. um, huh. I've never read it that way. Sorry, I got a hair on my nose. It's going to bother me. The is not, or the is that is not yet shall come. Instead of saying the is that is not yet shall come. Can you see where the pause went when you say the sentence? And I'm probably saying it backwards. It's probably the is not that is, or the is that is, the is not that is. And that would actually be more true, because everything is, even the is not. Time is connected between the end of time and the next time. They're kind of like a butterfly almost. Those two times smack up against each other, like almost like this, like a tav, like truth, right? But these two times, the end and the beginning, are the exact same moment. It's like complete annihilation, destruction. And where can you go from there but up, right? How low and how tragic we want to make this journey for ourselves is totally up to us. It's up to us. We've been given all authority from heaven already. That happened in Genesis. Go rule over everything, including the things that creep on the ground. And I'll add one more to it in a couple days here, however long that took, right? You on your belly. Oh, wow. Well, I was given authority over everything on its belly. So then everything became upside down. Then instead of somebody being able to watch you and help you and guide you, became something that looked like it had no purpose, is the best way to put it. I can't say something that was evil that is really good, because it's not that way. But the Bible talks about this, talks about the confusion that's going to result. See, in a prideful way, we'll say, oh, they're calling good evil and evil good. Unjust, right? Sure, that's fair. You could say that. It is iniquity. But when we realize why the Lord created evil and what its purpose and everything is for, we're going to be really confused, because then people will call good evil and evil good. This is we don't understand it, but this is exactly what Paul was dealing with when he was teaching about grace. Shall we sin more that grace abound? Right? Should we do more evil so that there's more grace? And that's what the problem is that even the evil that's going on out there, it's being used for our own good. It's going to teach us one way or the other. But the beast that we're battling is the scriptures. That's the beast. Leviathan or Levi. We make that choice. How do we want to be led? Right? And isn't there just the preponderance of LED lights lately? It's like lead, lead everywhere, lead, lead. Anyway, with whose help have you uttered words? In other words, he's saying, your spirit, okay? And whose breath has come out from you? Ooh, well, some people, if you're a person who sees that there's some kind of a battle going on, in heaven, some battle between good and evil and all this stuff, yeah, then you would say, well, that was the devil's voice coming out of him because he was blah 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 whatever. And I guess you could say that he takes the beating, man. Sheol is naked before God, and Abaddon has no covering. He stretches out the north over the void. Okay, so over the void, that should be a hint of the darkness of how light comes from darkness, and hangs the earth on nothing. We think that means like the globe. But if I am earth and I am hung, I'm cursed and on nothing of all things. He stretches the north out over the void and hangs the earth on nothing. It's the is not that is. Yeah. Yeah. We deserve this. Is, what I'm witnessing? I'm reading this book and I can see how pride has gotten into mankind and like, boy, have we been bitch slapped. I see it as plain as day. He binds up the waters in his thick clouds. That's just life. What's watering the seed? How does it affect you? Right? Are you, does the things that are going on, do you see some kind of battle and you're waiting for somebody to come and save you? That's why we're in trouble. We're waiting for somebody to come and save us. The Son of Man you are a Son of Man. Okay. We're already here. Um, he binds up the waters in his thick clouds, and the cloud is not split open under them. That's like talking about the waters are just what they are. I form light, I create darkness. I make peace, I create evil. Or you could say, what is it? And they water that verse down as to say, I create well-being and I create calamity. And it's like, exactly. It's exactly that. Wah, 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 wah. It's like, stop watering it down. Just say it for what it is. You got two parts, but they don't divide like that. You don't touch the tree of good and evil. It's just what's going on. You have to understand the tree. It has to give you comfort, right? He covers the face of the full moon. And spreads over it his cloud. See, the moon is reflected. Do you realize that when it talks about the woman and the moon, that's all Lady Wisdom stuff. Okay, the moon goes through phases, but the fruit from the moon, the light that comes from that moon, all right, sometimes that moon isn't there. It changes. But sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. When you get a brand new one, it's kind of like a brand new start. But that woman, that moon, I mean, it's like, if Lady Wisdom right? If she could be, if there was a book, like let's say AI took over, and Lady Wisdom is now, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I got to think back because R.C. Sproul describes this. Yeah, it's like some things have no substance, right? Um, Wisdom and knowledge, you can write it down, but it can be kept in a place that, if it's kept in here, where is it, right? You can transition it and write it down, but it exists in a place where it doesn't exist yet. Okay? And so the moon being the woman, see our moon and that circles our earth actually follows the woman's menstrual cycle, in case you didn't know that. But the moon would be representative of the helper to the man. So if the great light, you know, is shining his light, then how that is reflected back kind of shows the relationship between those two. If it exists or if it's corrupted or defunct. So and what talks about his cloud, remember there's two clouds. He came with the clouds. Pillar of cloud, pillar of fire, and that's still a cloud, considered a cloud. And that those clouds are in front or behind. One is during the day, one is for at night, to guide them at night. Um, he binds up the waters in his thick clouds, and the cloud is not split open under them. He covers the face of the full moon and spreads over it his cloud. It's like, how to limit this to just poetry is pointless. This is not poetry. This is talking about the mind of God. He has inscribed a circle on the face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. Oh my God, this is beautiful. The pillars of heaven tremble and are astounded at his rebuke. And I know what those shaking pillars, what it means to shake. What I know has shaken the pillars of what I see as heaven. Absolutely. Because I see more going on here than people will give me a chance to show. And it's comforting and terrifying at the same time. It's like, have I done something wrong? Did I do something wrong here? Did I miss the mark? Then I go, well, to think that I could defunk or screw up the Lord's plans are like insanity. That's just absolute. You don't sneak up and trick that guy. The hardest part, if anybody's been tricked here, is to look in the mirror and just realize what we are in our, I guess, natural state, right? And that would be to be a devil. We're born in a fallen world. We are as devils until we're reborn. When Jesus talked to people, he said that, though you are evil, you know how to give good gifts to your children. It's kind of like, why was he calling them evil? It's our understanding of what evil is and what it means as if it's something that can be destroyed, like it has some type of substance or form, and it doesn't. It just exists as a fruit hanging inside of a tree that it shouldn't come out of. By his power, he stilled the sea. And we see that as, again, as a physical thing. The sea represents all the waters that can water the seed. What can come out of there. Everything and that's funny because we even feel that way with regards to like evolution, right? Everything comes from the sea. That's what we feel like, and actually everything does come from the sea according to this book. Coincidence? Nah. By his power he stilled the sea, and that's just to show a peace that can exist between good and evil. Matter of fact, that's what the first Sabbath actually was. He rested from everything he made and created. What did he make? Peace. And what was created? Darkness and evil. So he rested from those things on the first Sabbath. Who upset the apple cart? Sorry to put it that way. We did. We injected the darkness back in without an understanding of what it's actually for. It allows for our God to be kind to us, because then he can bend his own rules without breaking them. He can say, irreverence can be justified. In other words, him bending and his own rules and so on, it can be justified if he can show that what we feel are written rules and laws spiritually don't meet the mark. Everything has to go spiritually. You cannot. That's why I haven't written a book. If I can't get some conversation with people instead of these stupid monologues, all you're going to do is you're going to watch a bunch of videos, which are in essence just books, with a narrator reading it to you, right? It's the same exact thing. So kind of, I can't even say that I haven't written books. I've written lots of books, 6,000 at least. And I feel like like I said, I feel like I'm wasting my time, or as I've done something wrong. But at the same time, I just realize, well, what difference does it make? I can only do the best that I can. I don't see my hindrance as being my spirit. My spirit's on fire, and I'm ready to rock and roll like now. There's nothing. People should be beating on my door to know what it is that I know. But maybe you're not ready for it, because this is very upsetting. This changes everything. I can actually say that. This is Isaiah 52:15 right here. Fulfilled. By his power he stilled the sea. By his understanding he shattered Rahab. Oh, if Abba means father, Abba would be a complete father. Ra is evil, and one father, Rahab, Raab. By his understanding, he destroyed the evil father. By his wind, the heavens were made fair. By his spirit, and the heavens are fair. His hand pierced the fleeing serpent all day long. I just looked up and it was 1:1:1. It was 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds. And I had a Trinity in 7. Behold, These are but the outskirts of his ways. If I could teach this to people, it would be everybody would be running to Jews so that they could know our Lord. I mean, that's what Jesus was referring to when the woman had the curse of bleeding or whatever, and all these doctors are trying to heal her, and she did. It's not talking about a physical ailment. It's saying she was like bleeding out from the sword. Okay, and her grabbing the hem of his garment was that part of Isaiah where everybody will grab on to the hem of a Jew's garment to say, "Teach us your ways." And I'm telling you, these ways are just the way it works. But as soon as you start to see entitlement and yeah, then it turns into a damn bloodbath. So congratulations. But that's Job 3:26. Some old, some new. Galatians 3:10. Oh, and I found an easy way to remember where Satan fell. It's Ezekiel and Isaiah. In Isaiah, there's a pattern because it's 14. Remember, 14 is that number, right? So it's 14, 13, 14 for Isaiah. 14, 13 to 14. And Ezekiel is you double 14 to make it 28. And then it's verse 2. So it's 28, 2. So you got those patterns again. But it's, I don't know. That's how you can remember if you want to see those verses where Satan supposedly fell or whatever, where it refers to that, the day star and so on. But let me see if I can find Galatians 3 here. All right. Hey, Galatians 5:26 at the top of page 1701. 1701 was the starship Enterprise. Notice that it is a 70 flanked by 2 1s. What is 5:26? Since it's there. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. And there you go. And I would say exactly that. Don't envy me. Don't look at me as anything special. You should be looking at me as like, man, I feel so sorry for this guy. He's got to bring this shit message of how we've screwed up. Wonderful. But here's in Galatians, okay? And this is by faith or works of the law. But we got to put some context on this here, because the law is just what it is, right? Trying to fulfill the law, to do it perfectly, for sake of the law, is nothing. That is not going to be justification before God. Because Paul is going to say that none are justified. But then in other parts, he also says that it's not the hearers of the law, but the doers of the law that are justified before God. So it's like, it sounds like he's conflicting, but he's not. You have to understand how he writes. Okay, very confusing. Very. 2 Peter 3:16, spot on. Okay. He he's even gotten himself into some trouble inadvertently. You know, when he says, "What I want to do, I do not do," Okay? He's not saying that, he's saying that what he wants to do is good. So whatever's coming from him that can be used for good, even if it happens to be bad, because, that's when God's grace is sufficient for you. He's saying that's not coming from me. He's saying I'm a puppet. I'm being used like a tool. So there he goes. He's being used as a tool. But people twist it around, to make it sound like, he's like out of control and, messenger from Satan was him being tormented over what he had done. I'm sure that would, those types of, if you be able to bury it, some people can't realize what it is. It's even hidden in there until they, they have that moment where they just let it go. All right. They actually talked about that on Focus on the Family here recently. There was a lady that was up in Canada, and they're pro-life, and it's like, me, I at this point, the way I feel about everything, my existence, and I don't know. I don't want to be here, man. I don't want to be here. But anyway, works of the law, you have to have them. The sons always do what they see their father doing, right? What would I expect to see a son of God doing then? Right? It's messed up because of the things he did, saying that the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath, and then it makes it seem like he can do what he wants and whatever. And it's like, no, you are a Son of Man. You are Lord of the Sabbath. Do you take a rest from all things that are made and created and so on? Or, how does your Sabbath roll? There was one time that I purposely, on a Friday night, I should find those videos, but I, with purpose, on a Friday night, stopped somebody from breaking the Sabbath, and then went on to show how I was going to justify breaking the Sabbath the next day on Saturday. Yeah, my neighbor was mowing her lawn, and I heard hers running. And when I hear noise around me, I'll respond to it. Somebody's mowing their lawn. Hey, yeah, somebody's mowing their lawn. Now there's a thought of mowing a lawn. Does that have anything to do with me? Why did I notice that? And I think about it. And I just go, yeah, I probably should get out there and mow my lawn. Well, I did that. And then I saw she was having a sacrifice over there. But what she was sacrificing was her lawnmower, because I saw a white billowing smoke, and she was standing in it and like around it. And it was, it was, I don't know. I'm not laughing at her, but because this to me is nothing but a machine. This Bible and this book and this thing, it's just a big machine. But she's over there, and it's the lawnmower smoking. This white cloud of smoke is going up. And I'm like, hey, trying to get her attention. And finally, she shuts it off. And I knew what happened. It wasn't an old lawnmower. It looked brand new. So I knew, stuck oil rings and things like that, not happening. And you could smell it, It doesn't have a radiator in it, so it can't be antifreeze. So, or, blown head gasket or a cracked cylinder wall. So it's like, no, this is too much oil. I've seen it before. And so I said that to her. I said, I go, so it was out of oil, huh? And I totally set her up because she just, as soon as I said that, she's like, yeah, I kept putting more in. I don't know. And I'm like, it's over full now. It's like, I said, I'll tell you what. I go, I'm going to use you. I go, let me use your body and your family to sacrifice for the Sabbath. And, she doesn't understand. And I said, look, I go, I have friends online that are, they're these Torah observant, Hebrew roots maniacs that, it's good that they want to follow the law. It proves a love for God, period. Just pause when you get to the point where you think that, human sacrifice or unaliving somebody, that's not good. So pause there. But, I'm telling her, these guys think that, about breaking the Sabbath, and they don't understand any of the teachings of Jesus. I said, so here's what I propose we do. Your lawnmower's busted. My lawn's almost done. You've done nothing. When that sun goes down, we're breaking the law if we're moving. So here's what I want to do. Because man's only supposed to work from sun up to sundown anyway, right? So, and plus you got the Sabbath pile on top. So I say, here's what we're going to do. You go in your house, and I'm going to order you guys a pizza for you and your family. So since I've interrupted your work for my cause, you're going to get a free pizza out of the deal. Go have pizza, whatever. And when we were setting this all up, her boyfriend actually called. I was on the porch with her on her cell phone and me asking him, is it okay if I buy your girlfriend a pizza? Because he's a good dude, man. He's done a lot of help for the family over there. Those kids didn't have a father figure, and a lot of the pride, money that's needed to give kids a good life wasn't there. And he's done a bang up job. Nothing bad to say about the guy. But so she, whatever, gonna do this. And I said, and here's what I'm gonna do. I need to finish my lawn quick before the sun goes down. But because any kind of division, it's like everybody's family, all's good, no trash going on, right? It's supposed to, that's what we're hoping for eventually, is the one last perpetual Sabbath. Wouldn't that be great? And I said, tomorrow, I'm going to fix your lawnmower, and I'll mow your lawn and take care of all that. Now, when tomorrow came, her lawnmower was in her backyard and in behind a gate, not open access. I don't go there. So it was like, I didn't fix her lawnmower, but I would have. All I need to do is just drain some oil out of it. And as far as the lawn and everything, that I could just do because I had access to it. So I mowed the lawn, trim and edge the sidewalks because it needed it bad. And then the more I did it, the more it looked like, for just a little bit more effort, it'll really be, so, and that always happens with me. I'll start something and then I'll see that, it could be a little bit better. Ooh, could be a little bit better. Ooh, could still be a little bit better. And then it's like, it's like they say that about computer programs, right? They're not born or, made or written or whatever. They're kind of born because as time goes by, they start to change, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? It was before your eyes that Jesus Christ was publicly portrayed as crucified. Why do they say that? Publicly portrayed. There's something, we're missing something in the translation there. And probably, I'm sure, certain it's important. Let me ask you only this. Did you receive the Spirit by works of the law or by hearing or hearing with faith? Okay. So what's the point here? He's just saying, how did you receive your spirit? How did you come to an understanding and a love for God, right? To to be, to have the spirit is to, well, you're either one with God or, you're either for or against, would be the best way to put it. So what Paul's asking here is, he's not, and again, this is sound like Elmer Fudd, man. Or who else does that? That's all, folks. Porky Pig, maybe. But he's talking about the spirit. Okay, we would read this and he's like he's mocking him. Let me ask you this: did you receive the spirit by works of the law or by hearing with faith? Because we see it as both of them cannot, give you what it is that you're looking for. Why wouldn't the law be able to give you faith and build your spirit? The law is good. You can trust it. It was given to us with a purpose, right? It was to give us a future and a hope, or a hope and a future, right? So to think that the law doesn't have a purpose, and a good purpose at that, is to, I don't know, to write off, big portions and chunks of, our history, right? Yeah, in a big way. Like, what was the point then? So the point was to guide us into understanding. It was to be like a foreshadow of how we should operate. But ultimately, the laws are supposed to be written on our hearts. That's the goal. Where it says, and then the books were opened, it'd probably be more like, and then we opened the books and realized that they should be closed. But he's asking, how did you receive your spirit? By works of the law? What are the works of the law? You read the word, and if it's able to, can then produce the fruit. Those are the works of the law. But there's also parts, there's works of the law that promise bad. That little word, if, right? If can become if you. And then you're kind of not liking things, right? But that law speaks of badness as well. So it's just relaying the spirit through the law. So you can gain spirit through the law. And that's what Jesus said when he was talking to Nicodemus. He said, we speak of what we know and what we see. In other words, what we do and what we see because of what we do. To understand to the manifestation of the word of God from spirit to existence. That's what this book is. Are you now being perfected by the flesh? So when Paul talks about the law, he says something very interesting that's should make it easy for you to understand how he viewed the law, okay? Because he didn't view it as something that was, when he says it's a curse to be under the law, It's like a burden that you really don't need. Jesus made it very simple. Love each other. All of the commandments hang on that word. Walk into a bank and rob the place. Okay? Can you see how obvious it should be? We don't need to, develop it to that extreme. I mean, that should be, blatantly obvious. But can you see what I'm saying here? Is that all this doctrine, it's already inside of us. It's already built inside of us. Lacking the ability to relate the mind of God, to people, to where they can understand it, and at the point of where that we're a slave to it. You can say I'm not and do what you want, and that's fine. I don't have any problems with that. I know that you will learn in your own way. You have to. You're going to be either a sheep or a goat. Have you begun in the spirit and are now being perfected by the flesh? So what is Paul talking about? Well, see, the flesh feels pain. What did Paul say about the law? He said, sin is the power of the law. Sin is the power of the, so it means the law has no power without sin. So if you sin, you're under the law, period. End of story. If you have done something that's considered a sin, for whatever the repercussions are for that, you got that coming. Did you suffer so many things in vain? And this is Paul basically trying to say, don't you understand what the rod is for? Are you just going to be beaten? And for how long? It's exactly what it said in Isaiah. How long will you suffer? How long will you be beaten? Did you suffer so many things in vain? In other words, you should have learned from them, right? Not in vain. And then he says that if indeed it was in vain. It's like it's not. It can't be in vain. Does he who supplies the Spirit to you and works miracles among you do so by works of the law or by hearing with faith? Now, if you hear with faith, then you will do the works. You have to have faith in the law for what it's for. But the faith is the most important part. Having the faith in God. And there it is. Does he who supplies the Spirit to you and works miracles among you do so by works of the law or by hearing with faith? Now, right here, he puts it right in perspective. Just as Abraham believed God and it was accounted to him as righteousness, I'm seeing this now because somebody brought it up, and they're talking about the way Paul writes. He mentions things beforehand to build a case to throw things he will mention later on back like a sentence or so, or a half a sentence. So when he says, he's talking about Abraham, right? But he says, does he who supplies the Spirit to you and works miracles among you, they're just talking about God, do so by works of the law or by hearing with faith? And he compares those two because he's coming up, he's going to mention Abraham, and who had no law. Abraham did not have any law. It was all faith. Okay. And he says, but the law, I'm sorry. Know then that it is those of faith who are sons of Abraham. And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith. Now, that would be good to go poking around and see if we could find that. I just tore off a busted toenail. Oh. Wow. Or by hearing with faith, just as Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him as righteousness. Now he's going to build on that even more. Now then, that it is those of faith who are know then that it is those of faith who are sons of Abraham. And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith. How can Paul even say that? He can, and I'm going to explain it to you. But can you see how huge that is? He's saying that the scriptures foresaw that God would justify the Gentiles by faith. And what are the Gentiles? And if you want to be honest with it, when it's talking about all the pigs going into the sea and the prodigal son going to feed the pigs, that was Paul, by the way, the prodigal son going to feed the Gentiles. Didn't see that coming, did you? But it's like he says that God would justify the Gentiles by faith. Well, think about it. What was Abraham? What was Abraham? That's the difference between the Jews and the Gentiles. Here you go. So this is your trick question to go asking pastors. You could say, who was the first to preach the gospel, and to whom was it preached to? And what does he say? He says, just as Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. Know then that it is those of faith who are the sons of Abraham. And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, preached the gospel beforehand to Abraham. So the scriptures, okay, if the word is God, God preached the first gospel, and he preached it to Abraham. And so what does he say? He preached the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, in you all the nations shall be blessed. So then, those who are of faith are blessed along with Abraham, the man of faith. For all who rely on works of the law are under a curse. For it is written, "Cursed be everyone who does not abide in all things written in the book of the law and do them." Makes it sound bad, doesn't it? Just shall live by faith. But if you have faith, you still respect and honor the law, right? But the law is not of faith. Rather, the one who does them shall live by them. And that is live by the sword, die by the sword. That was spoken of. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, "Cursed is everyone who is hanged on a tree." Cursed is everyone who's hanged on a tree. So that in Christ Jesus the blessing of Abraham might come to the Gentiles, so that we might receive the promised Spirit through faith. I think that's it for today. I love you guys very much. You have my number. If you have any theologians, friends, pastors, preachers that would like to see what I have figured out, or, and I don't even like to say it that way, what's been revealed to me, then please contact me. And I can upset your world as much as mine has been upset, because the great sword has taken peace from the earth. And this is the great sword. Shalom, shalom.